Welcome into WagerTalk's Last Call. I'm Meghan Payton. Happy Saturday. This is the show that gets you all involved. If you're new here, we are driven by our YouTube live comments. It's your chance to get last-minute bets, last-minute picks in from our amazing panel here at WagerTalk. Joining us this morning, we have Carmine Bianco, Adam Trigger, Rob Veno, and Steve Merril. Guys, this is a fun weekend in sports. We have the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, majors in golf right now. We've got to talk a little bit soccer. We start with some hockey, and we know our expert here, Carm, has got some plays for us. So, Carm, thank you very much for joining us. A regular here at Last Call. Great to see you. You've been crushing it. Number one in NHL this year. Number one in soccer this year. We're going to talk a little Premier League with you in a bit. But first, how's it going this week? And what do you have going on at Wager Talk?
Thanks, and thanks for having me, Megan. It's going well. I'm back from a 1 week vacation in Punta Cana. It was a great time at a place called Secrets, Cap Cana, and got a ton of sun. Although you probably can't tell so on the screen there, but a little bit tanned. And hockey's in full force. The Western and Eastern Conference Finals. Couple of great games. 4 overtimes in that Carolina, Florida, and then the Vegas one yesterday, another overtime game. So it's been some great hockey thus far. And of course, soccer, we're into the last couple of weeks of the European seasons and then some tournaments as well, too. The finals are set. So still a lot of action over this next month ahead.
Carm, you're feeling reset, you're feeling refreshed, and you're definitely ready to dodge some questions in the comments. So anyone who's got some NHL questions or Premier League questions, Carm's your guy. We're going to talk Eastern Conference Finals. How about that game one? Panthers Canes, 4 overtimes. I think the game went into 2 a.m. Absolutely nuts. Now they're going to be off less of a day of rest. Before we get into game two, what did you make of game one?
Game one was insane. Um, we were basically like 15 seconds shy of it going to 5 OTs before Chuck ended it. In that fourth overtime, but it was a game in which the goalies stood on their heads. Bobrovsky for the Florida Panthers finally earning that $10 million contract that he signed was just unbelievable in goal. Looking at looking at just the XG numbers for the first 3 periods, the numbers were 4.02 to 165 for Carolina, essentially meaning they probably should have won that game in regulation 4-2. So if you're an over better, you hated the fact that the goalies stood on their heads in that one. The total was 5.5, similar to what it is tonight at 5.5 as well too. It's just one of those games where the goalies were the highlight of that game. And you look at it now, Carolina normally doesn't lose at home. That's only their third home loss in the playoffs, dating back the last couple of years. They lost this year to the Islanders, to the Rangers. It was their only home loss in the playoffs last year. And now the Florida Panthers. So I think a lot of money is coming in on the Carolina Hurricanes, and rightfully so. I get it. They don't expect them to win it, but is it an overreaction? At some point, if the money keeps coming in, the value is lost. They should probably be about 140, 145, but they could be as high as 160, 165 by the time game time rolls around. The total is probably the better play in this game, Megan, and it's just because of the fact that, as you said, 4 overtimes, 7 periods of hockey played. A lot of those players were on the ice for almost a full game, 60 minutes. You look at Florida, Aaron Ekblad, 52 minutes on the ice. Brandon Montour, 58 minutes. Forsling, 56. And on the Carolina side, Brent Burns, 55 minutes. Slavin, 52. And Pesci, 48. You might not see it in the first period, Megan, where the adrenaline carries these players. But by the time it hits the second and third periods, those legs are going to be a little heavy because they've only had one off day. Obviously, it was a optional skate. Nobody likely showed up for that optional skate. By the time that second period rolls around and that third period, I think we're going to see some goals. So I think the over is the play here.
Total right now, 5.5. Canes minus 156 on the money line. It's kind of a debate, Carm, when you come off a game like game one, you're tired, it was long, and it can sometimes mean, all right, we're going to see more offense game two. We're going to see more defense in game two. I've heard that debate back and forth. It looks like you're leaning towards the over 5.5. Carm, I know you sometimes look at shots on goal. Any props that you're going to be eyeing in game two?
I'll likely avoid any of the defenseman shots on points. I'll look at the forwards, and the reason for liking the forwards, in the first game, all I had was one player shot prop, and that was on Brandon Montour, and I think he finished with 9 in that game. So he easily went over his number of 2.5. I'd likely look at the forwards here, and it's just because of the makeup of the teams. The forwards got a lot less ice time, 15 to 20 minutes less ice time than the defensemen are. If you're is set up in a, let's say, an 11-6 sort of lineup where you have 11 forwards, 6 defensemen, those guys are going to be on the ice more. So you're going to be able to roll out the forward lines and four lines a lot more often. And if you can take advantage of some tiring legs in that second and third period, I think the shot totals are going to be a lot higher in this one. It's just a matter of, as far as the total goes, is whether the goalies are standing on their heads again. Bobrovsky's been fantastic in the playoffs since coming back in goal for and replacing Alex Lyon. He has been very good. And then on the other side, you got Freddie Anderson, and he was very good in game one as well, too. So I would look at the forward props, and I'd probably look at players who are going to be on the ice for power plays, like Sebastian Aho for Carolina. So I would look at the forwards, and likely Aho is the one that sort of stands out. His total's at 2.5, I believe, right now. You're gonna have to lay some big on it. He's usually in around that 130 to 140 range.
Carm, I know you've got a big promo code up for this week. Are you looking at anything out west, Dallas, Vegas? That game's on Sunday. Before we switch over to some soccer bets.
Yeah, sort of looking at that the Dallas Vegas one. I think it's a series that's good. That likely is going to go 6. It could possibly go 7. It's one of those games where it was up for grabs last night. Obviously, an OT game. Dallas looked like the better team in that third period. Just couldn't get it done in OT. And I think my mindset going into that game was whoever lost game one, I was going to take them in game two. And that's likely what I'll do here. And you're likely going to get Dallas at a small plus price, or plus 105 yesterday. They'll likely be something similar in this one. This is one, during the regular season, Dallas dominated them, won all 3 games against this Vegas Golden Knights team. They play well on the road. Their game carries well from home to the road. So I can see them getting a win in game two. And this, with the venue switching back, tied at 1 when they switch back to Dallas for game three.
Carm, let's talk a little Premier League. I don't think we've gotten to break down some soccer plays with you on last call, but you're a man of many traits. And the Premier League's coming to an end. You've got to play today, Man City, Chelsea. What are you looking at there?
Yeah, this one goes tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think tomorrow morning at 11:30, and you can essentially call this probably Championship Sunday, because regardless of what Arsenal does today in their game against Nottingham Forest at 12:30, a Man City win tomorrow will give them the Premier League title once again, and they've got a 4-point lead with 3 games left, so it doesn't matter really what Arsenal does today. If Arsenal was to lose, obviously today, then the City clinches the title. But City at home have been absolutely fantastic. They're on a 23-game unbeaten run through all their last 23 games, home and away, 19 wins, 4 losses. But at home, they've won 16 straight games, 14 of those by 2+. Now, taking them on the money line, you can't. The price is just too high. But the goal line on this one, the handicap is anywhere from -1.5 to -1.75 on our Wager Talk live lines. And if you're wondering what 1.75 it's a split line between 1.5, laying a goal and a half, and laying 2. So $100 bet, 50 would be on -1.5, 50 would be on -2. You need them to win by at least 2 to win half your bet, and win by more than 2 to win your full bet. But like I said, of those 16 straight wins, 14 of them have been by 2+ goals, including a win in a domestic cup game over the same Chelsea team by a 4-0 scoreline. This team is just firing on all cylinders right now. They're going to want to win this game and probably win it by margin. And then literally rest their players for their final two games of the Premier League season because they've got a FA Cup final against their Manchester rivals, Man United, coming up at the end of the month. And they have the Champions League final against Italian side Inter Milan. Those are the two big things after this Sunday's game. So I expect a crooked number on this one, likely and no disrespect to Chelsea, but they've been terrible this year. They're sitting like 12th. Their season is done. They've packed it up. So I expect something, a City win by three or four goals at the very least in this one.
Carm, there's 4 Premier League games on currently. Do you ever get into the live betting action there?
I do, and this is one that I likely will. That and you look at that as I mentioned that handicap that is 1.75. If you'd rather play the 1.5 and you can't get it, you could, as far as the Premier League goes and this game goes, you could likely wait the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, and if there hasn't been a goal scored, that line will drop, and it'll drop to -1.5 and probably like plus money, like a plus 110 out there. So you can wait it out. Obviously, the one caveat in that is if they score early, then that number is gone, and you now have to wait at least two, if not more. And it's no play at that one because you've lost the best number.
Carmine Bianco, number 1 in soccer the last 365 days. Also number 1 in NHL the last year. We have some NHL comments coming in at the YouTube live chat. We head over. Dave Redling says, Carm, would you bet saves over for Anderson? Panthers chaos at home.
I would. I'd probably look at as well too for saves for Bobrovsky, only because you expect some pushback tonight from the Carolina Hurricanes, trying to even up this series. So they're probably going to get a ton of shots on goal. When I say a ton of shots, I don't mean in that 40, 50, 60 range, but they're going to get into at the very least into the mid 30s, I would think. And if the save props are anywhere around that 27 to 29 save prop and even 29 and a half or 30, then it's likely a good one because Bobrovsky's been very good as well too. So it could be one of those ones where they get 35 to 36 shots on goal. They score 4, win the game, and you've got 32 saves and you cash that prop.
Carmine Bianco, all the knowledge in hockey, soccer, and plenty more. We appreciate your time as always on Saturday. Remind everyone what you've got going on at Wager Talk, what promo code they can use to get onto some of your plays.
Yeah. So we've got a deal up, and this is going to be over for the next few days. It's Carm Sock, so CARMCOSOC 50. That's going to get you 50% off a full year of soccer. So it knocks it down from like $9.99 down to just under $500 for a full year, which is less than about $1.50 a day. And I'm high volume in soccer, so that is a great deal. Number 1 at Wager Talk the last 365 days. And for NHL is almost done, but Cup 40, CUP 40 will get you $40 off the rest of the NHL playoffs. So all the conference final games, all the Stanley Cup games, any series prices, and any prop bets. So that's a great deal in itself as well.
Carm, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Great to have you back. We'll catch you here next time on Last Call.
All right. Thanks for having me.
We continue the show next, talking a little baseball. Don't worry, we're going to get into some NBA playoffs here in just a bit. I see some love in the comments. We've got Daniel saying he had the Heat last night on the 5% play. I got Ranieri in the back. He's excited. He's still celebrating from last night's win. Everyone doubted Miami, and now they're proven wrong. He's screaming out there in the back. All right, we got to talk some baseball, though, and no better to do that than with Adam Trigger. Adam, thank you very much for joining us here. You've been crushing it. Number 1 at Wager Talk the last 365 days, plus 186 units. How are you doing and what's going on with you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Megan. I'm doing well. Already got a winner this morning, Korean baseball. Saturday's games go very early, so it's kind of like an overnight game. SSG Landers get it done with an easy win. Yeah, it's going good. And I'll just point out that, it's been a great year that 186 units is number one at Wager Talk in terms of units gained over the last year. And I feel like I haven't even really hit my stride in baseball this season yet. Last baseball season was great. And this one is, I'm ahead in MLB. I'm 3-1 in my last 4 KBO plays, but actually, still, chasing a couple of units there. So I think it's a great time to jump in because you haven't missed all the winners yet, in my opinion. That's how I look at it. I think, the months ahead will be better than the, 6 weeks so far to start the season. So look, finally getting some momentum in KBO. I've got my 4% KBO play that goes overnight to share with you here. And I have a 5% Major League Baseball play that goes tonight as well. That's up on my page for sale. So, looking forward to the next few months, few weeks. Think it's going to be a good stretch.
Drake, we're going to talk some KBO, but reminder to all who want to talk some MLB, Adam's here to answer any of your MLB questions. He's got a 5% play up, but there's tons of games on the slate tonight, or in today's. So just get in there, ask Adam whatever you want. Let's break down some KBO though. Trigger, you've been crushing it. And we've talked many times about the value that you can get in betting on Korean baseball. You're eyeing one specifically today. What are you looking at and where should we be betting?
Yeah, so these games go tonight. They're kind of in an overnight spot. They're day games in Korea on Sunday. So this game will go at like 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 1 a.m. on the East Coast. I haven't posted this for clients yet because the lines are just starting to pop up. So I want to make sure that everyone gets sort of like the most widely available line. But right now, the KT Wiz at some places as it opens are in the minus 115, minus 120 range. I expected it to be minus 120, minus 125. Anything is really fine. I'll make this a 4% play, probably anything up to like minus 140. And I can't see it going higher than that because on paper, Megan, it's a very even matchup. KT Wiz, Doosan Bears, 2 good pitchers here. But Doosan, if you've read my analysis or you've listened to Spaces, or listen to me break down KBO games, Doosan's been a fade this week for me. Last week, 2 of their starting pitchers went on the IL. And I mean, that's a big deal when it happens in Major League Baseball, but it really can't be understated how big of a deal that is when it happens in KBO because teams do not have the pitching depth like Major League teams do. So you lose 2 starting pitchers and it really takes a toll on the rest of the staff to somehow piece together those innings. So we are now at Sunday. The way the KBO week runs, Megan, it's a 6-day week. Everyone gets Monday off. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are game days. The league-wide off day is Monday. So this will be the 6th consecutive game for Doosan, the 6th consecutive day they're asking, for innings out of their bullpen. And what typically happens in the 5-man pitching rotation is whoever starts on Tuesday has to make the double start in the week. They end up having to pitch twice in the same week. And what I've noticed is the domestic Korean-born pitchers struggle with this. The American, not necessarily American, but the former MLB guys that come over tend to do better in the double start week than the Korean-born players. So Woo Jun Choi is going to pitch here for Doosan. He's a veteran. He's one of the better Korean-born pitchers in this league right now. 3.64 ERA, 1.414 WHIP. He's, having another solid season. No surprise there. But he pitched on Tuesday, and he pitched on Tuesday, and it wasn't like a cruise type outing, right? Like he threw 97 pitches. He wiggled his way out of jams, high leverage innings. Like he got out of a huge bases loaded jam, to get out of the 6th inning. And now they're going to ask him to pitch here. I could see this being just a tough spot for him. I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank for this start. And on the other side, KT is going to have Wes Benjamin. If you're familiar with Major League Baseball, he was on the Texas Rangers 2020, made it to the league as part of that pandemic shortened season, bounced around in the minors, ended up in KBO last year, and he was actually the best pitcher on KT last year, 2.70 ERA, 1.07 WHIP. And, he hasn't really reached that this year so far. He actually got off to quite a poor start. Right now, his overall numbers are 5.06 ERA, 1.38 WHIP. But he got a win over LG the last time out, who I think is the best team in this league. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run. And I think we could see him take a step forward here, but also he's just better equipped to pitch twice in the same week. KT also got bullpen guys back earlier this week. So their bullpen, a 5.25 ERA, has been one of the worst in the league this year. I think that's going to improve. And what happens, Megan, is when you take guys out of the starting rotation in this league, they don't have guys in the minors that are like ready to come up and start games. So they have to pull guys from the bullpen or piece together bullpen games. And so I could see Doosan's bullpen getting significantly worse as they have to cover those innings for the starters that are hurt. I think we'll probably get 3 to 4 innings of the Doosan bullpen, which is tired and fatigued here at the end of this game. And I actually like Benjamin better than Choi right now. So it all sort of makes sense here for me with KT. And I'd really lay anything, but I think we're going to get widely available something in the -120, -125 range, and that will make my card. So KT Wiz 4% best bet. And again, I'm pretty much willing to play at just about any price.
KT Wiz -122 right now on FanDuel Sportsbook, total at 8.5. Trig, let's switch over to some MLB talk. Some questions coming in on the comments. We've got Paco Healy saying, Trigger, will Snell ever get right, or are you permanently fading him? He's talking about Blake Snell, the pitcher for the Padres.
Yeah. So Paco, no one's a permanent fade for me ever, right? Like there's always a spot to sell and a spot to buy. So I would never permanently fade Snell. I would never permanently fade anyone, right? Like because there's a spot where they're going to be, so undervalued that you can jump in, or too overvalued where you have to sell them. Will he ever get back to Tampa Bay, Blake Snell? I don't know. I'm not sure. I certainly haven't seen that, but there was flashes last year. I think back to last year, and it was I want to say right around this time. Maybe it was a little bit later in the season, maybe June, where he had a really nice sort of run after an equally poor start to the season. So I think there will probably be a spot to buy on him at some point, but certainly wouldn't be a permanent fade. I just don't know when that spot is, but I definitely am not just going to fade him because he's been a little bit cold.
A temporary fade. How about that? All right, Dave Redlane asking, Adam, what do you think about White Sox -1.5 today versus the Royals? Do you like to bet on the run line?
Megan, I like to bet on the run line, but I don't like to lay -1.5. I think the run line value is almost always on the +1.5, and it's tougher to find. The books book these games to make it difficult for you as the bettor to find good spots to bet the +1.5 run line. So I'm not going to lay -1.5. As far as this matchup, just these teams are concerned, it's no secret. I love this White Sox team. I was high on them coming into the season. I have their season win total over. I have other futures with them, and they got off to a horrific start. They've come around a little bit. I think they're 17-29 as they enter play today. But the Royals, the Royals are not like they're 14-32. They are a bad baseball team, but they hit the ball. And I think now they're starting to hit the ball like the underlying metrics suggested they could coming into the season. So I've been a little bit hesitant to fade the Royals for that reason. You look at the hard hit rate, exit velocity, up and down that lineup, and it suggested their offense should be better than it was. And they've had a little bit of a resurgence over the last couple weeks in terms of just like run production. Doesn't always translate to wins, but they've had a little bit of a resurgence in terms of how they're playing the game. So this was a tough game for me because I like Giolito, and I'd like to find I'm looking for ways to back the White Sox right now, not really fade them. So I don't really want to go against them with the Royals here, but I also I'm not real keen on laying -1.5, especially with a White Sox team that their bullpen has been a very big issue this year, though I do think that's improving as well. So Dave, I wish I had a better answer for you here. This is a tough one. It was kind of a quick, easy pass for me because I didn't feel like I was getting the value or the spot either way. But I certainly wouldn't lay the -1.5. It's just not my style.
A little bit more of a general question coming in from John Papas. Trigger, who's an MLB team you want to ride right now, and who are you looking to play against?
Well, the White Sox are a team that I would look to play better going forward. Like if you look at their, just what they've done to this point, and you talk about potentially you're going to get Liam Hendricks back. The bullpen should be better. Um, you know, Dylan Cease is probably going to come around. Like they're a team that I definitely would want to play on, going forward. I got to be honest, and this is going to contradict a little bit some stuff I said earlier in the season, but a team I'm selling right now is the Diamondbacks. Now, I have to point out that my biggest season win total future is on Diamondbacks over, right? Like that was I gave it out on Wager Talk shows. I'm on record making that my biggest season win total future. It's over 74 and a half wins. With that being said, I mean, I still think I'm okay there. The Diamondbacks are 25-20 coming into play today, but the reason I think I'd look to fade this team, at least in the short term, is I don't know that they're going to play. I don't know that they're an over 500 team this season. I was hoping to get them coming in right around the 500 mark to cash my win total over, and I still think that that's probably the case. Here's the reasons why I think going against the Diamondbacks makes sense. Their pitching is very, very thin. Obviously, Zach Gallen is a stud, and there are starters that have redeeming qualities on that team. But man, that you start to get in the back end of that rotation right now. It's guys like Tommy Henry. Nelson is okay, but like it's just not a convincing 1 through 5 starting pitching. And then the bullpen is even more thin. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be an issue for them, as the season goes along. The other reason I think they're a little bit of a fade is they were hitting outrageous with runners in scoring position, outrageously good with runners in scoring position for, the first month of the season. If they stop cashing in on some of those opportunities, that's going to be an issue as well, because their underlying offensive metrics, they don't hit for like an insanely high average as a team. They've really relied on like getting a guy on getting the stolen base, which they have excellent team speed. So they do take advantage of the new, rules where they can steal bases and get guys in scoring position. But I look at that team entering play 25-20. It was a 4% play for me last night, Megan, on the Pirates. I played against Gallen and the Diamondbacks. It was an easy winner. I think that they would be a team that I'd look to fade, at least in the short term. If they go cold and suddenly the value really comes back around on them, I think I would come back in and play. I'd be looking to go the other way. But so far, twice this week, I've been able to find great spots at a 5%er earlier this week. Oakland A's +1.5 against the Diamondbacks in a game they won outright. And then, I took the +1.5 with the Pirates last night against Gallen, and they won that game outright as well. So probably some money line value playing against the Diamondbacks as well. But I think in the short term, they're probably a good fade.
Adam Trigger giving out all the advice, the free plays. We appreciate the 4% KT Wiz play that you're eyeing for later tonight. MLB, go check out Adam Trigger up at wagertalk.com. He's got a 5% max MLB play up for today. Guys, Adam's been crushing it. Number one handicapper at Wager Talk the last year. We really, really appreciate your time here on Last Call. Go cash some tickets, Adam. We'll catch you here next time.
Thanks for having me, Megan. Take care.
And guys, I see the MLB question still coming in. Steve Merril later is going to hop on that. We got to talk some NBA though. So Rob Veno's joining us to break down some Game 3 action. We got some fun ones coming up. Rob, thank you very much for joining us, crushing it in the month of May. You've been number one at Wager Talk and NBA playoff totals. I know you got a total that you're going to be talking about a little bit later with us. How are you and what's going on?
I am good today, Megan. Thanks for having me. Yeah, the NBA's been really good throughout the playoffs, especially the month of May, where we continue to win seemingly each and every day. A lot of hot handicappers over at WagerTalk.com. For those who are viewing the show here, go ahead and check everybody out. There's a lot of guys running really hot in the NBA. We're going to talk about a side play here, Megan. There is a best bet total play up and available at wagertalk.com for tonight's action in Game 3, Denver at the LA Lakers. But interesting series, right? 2-0, Denver, old serve at home. And what do you know? After 4 games, 2 East, 2 West, we finally get the entrance of Scott Foster into the conference final.
This has been just an insane playoff so far. We've already mentioned Joe Ranieri is super excited about his Heat team going 2-0. Now going back to Miami, hopefully going to make it 3-0. All right, guys, we're going to talk a little NBA here, but reminder, Rob's got a 4% pair of best bets totals up for this weekend. We're going to talk some side with him. So guys, head over to the YouTube live. Any questions you want to talk NBA, Rob's here to answer them. What have you made so far of the playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals? What are your general thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of what I feel, Megan, is felt by a lot of guys in the handicapping industry. And that's why we're running so well right now because it's nice when you analyze and the results correlate to your analysis. And when it falls the way you think it's going to fall, it's always good. Where Boston and Miami are concerned, anytime Jimmy Butler tells the world, tells the nation when he got a microphone in front of him that his team is coming in to steal game one, and then they're not satisfied, they're coming back for game two. You listen to Jimmy Butler. He's one of those guys you listen to. As far as the matchup goes in that particular series, I think we see what we see, right? Eric Spoelstra versus Joe Mazzulla. That advantage is real. Joe Mazzulla looks like he has no idea what to do on the sidelines, although he insists when he talks to the media that his team is well prepared. Eric Spoelstra is extremely well prepared, and his team's just playing a little bit harder right now. We saw it down the stretch last night when Miami went on the 24-9 run to go ahead and win that game, that his team finds ways to get shots closer to the basket rather than just hoisting up threes. And Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, it took me a while to remember this, Megan, but they really don't have a true ball handler. And the one that they acquired in Malcolm Brogdon really never brings the ball up. So you watch Boston dribble the ball off their feet. You watch them drive to the lane and crash into three guys and get called for charging, throw the ball away to nobody. It's the same as last year. Miami's in really good shape right now as far as Denver, LA goes, and then I'll get right through this analysis here of the play that I'm going to give to the folks watching. I thought this would be a home court series. I thought it would be a tightly fought series, perhaps a 7-game series, at least 6 minimum. I think that's what we saw in the first two, right? For a long time here in the playoffs this year, it was real easy. Pick the team you think is going to win the game and don't worry about the point spread. But if you did that in the first 2 games of this series and you like Denver, you wound up on the wrong side of the point spread. Here's a 2-0 team as far as series goes. That's 0-2 against the spread because the Lakers found a way to get in the back door twice in a row. But I'm going to shorten this one up to first quarter here tonight. Just Lakers are in the 0-2 hole. They're out of the altitude now. They're back home in front of the home crowd in a desperate situation. And I would expect, after reading a few quotes, after watching LeBron James speak after the game, I would expect that sense of urgency is felt here by the Lakers and that they come out quickly. There's no tremendous playoff ATS numbers regarding first quarter with either one of these teams as far as the playoffs are concerned for me to dish out there. So this is strictly a situational play. I think that the Lakers tighten some things up first quarter. If you go through the first 2 games, right, they're down 37-25. They look tired. They put a small lineup on the floor to start. They made some adjustments. And the second game at the end of one was 27-27. So 8-point improvement there. And I believe that incremental improvement continues on here tonight. The sense of urgency is one thing, and I think you can compare it to Game 6 against the Warriors, where the Lakers are up 3-2 back home, and they knew they didn't want to go back to Golden State for Game 7. So the sense of urgency to come out of the chute quickly was there, and they did so. They were up 24-10 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter and coasted to a first quarter ATS ticket cash in that game. I kind of expect that same type of outcome here in this particular game. That quarter, by the way, ended 31-26 with the Lakers covering. Tonight, they're only laying 2.5. That type of result would cover. The energy level on the Lakers looks good to me. I think they found some ways to contain Denver on the boards. First quarter rebounding. And remember, rebounding was a big issue in Game 1. But first quarter rebounds, Lakers won that 13-10, so they got to the boards a little bit better. I think as these games have gone by, the first 2, Lakers have found ways to get off to quicker starts. I think they'll get off to a really quick start here tonight. Denver's not a great road team. Let's not forget that. They haven't been good on the road. So So I'm going to try this, Megan. I'm going to try Lakers in this sense of urgency type situation, -2.5 first quarter. And again, I'll re-mention it. It's a small part of our handicap, but I know we love to joke about Scott Foster, how he suddenly shows up in these spots where teams down 0-2, they're at home. Scott Foster's been a great referee for home teams this year against the spread. And of course, his nickname is the series extender. So if you want to add that into your handicap, you can. When I saw his name, I was a little bit happy. Lakers -2.5 first quarter.
Lakers Nuggets game 3 tonight. Lakers laying 5.5, total 222. Lakers lost the first two, managed to cover the first two, which is surprising for a Nuggets team that was top at home in the NBA during the regular season, not only outright, but also against the spread. I like your approach, Rob, for first quarter Lakers. Any role players you expect to step up tonight for LA in a do or die, we must say, for game 3?
Yeah, I think obviously in a situation like this, you want to look toward the stars. So you look toward Anthony Davis and LeBron James to be the leaders here. But I said in game 2, Megan, and I did not cash this ticket, that I believe that D'Angelo Russell has to be a bigger part of the offense than he was in game 1. He only put up 8 points. His second game or game 2 prop point total was 13.5. And I tried it over thinking that this guy's got to, be more assertive on the offensive end for LA to win. He got to 10, maybe at home now. It gets upgraded even a little bit more as far as his production is concerned, not necessarily the line, because when I looked this morning again, he sat at 13.5. So I could try D'Angelo Russell as kind of a lower rung, like you said, role player type of guy to go over his total. Where Denver's concerned, you don't like to play role players on the road and their props at least because they don't show up as well as they do at home. So for the Lakers, I guess mine would be D'Angelo Russell. And you can't even list Austin Reeves anymore because he's becoming a cult hero instantly in LA. And odds makers keep jacking his numbers up.
Rob, you have 4% best bet totals up for, so you can fade these questions. Luis is wondering, do you like the over for this game tonight? I'll just mention it was pretty shocking to see the over crush in game 1 by over 30 points. And then we saw this low scoring game 2. Do you want to get into a little bit of your approach for this one, or should we just promo your 4%?
Well, the 4% is up and available, Megan, at wagertalk.com. I'll kind of dance around this a little bit while giving some information at the same time. Um, it's interesting because Denver has indicated to us all that when the opportunity exists, and maybe more than when the opportunity exists, they want to push because they don't believe in the Lakers' transition defense. I would agree with that. I think the Lakers have shown us two different styles. They have absolutely responded. If we go back to game 1, from a Denver basket with a quick transition push down the floor of their own. That's why that game got over so easily. There's no altitude here, so the Lakers' fatigue factor won't be real this time around. So maybe Denver can't push as well, and maybe the Lakers want to push a little bit more. The money has come in on under. And just from a general philosophical standpoint, when handicapping these playoffs, in a game like this, the situation that we're in, home team down 0-2 and desperate, I think you automatically play under because you feel like the home team is going to clamp down on defense. And that would lead to a lower scoring game. So I think that's where a lot of that money comes from. Whether or not the fundamental matchups hold true to that, we'll see. And again, a bunch of late free throws we saw last night in that Miami Boston game, right? Those late free throws turned a lot of under tickets into over.
All right, this is a perfect tease for Rob's 4% plays up on totals this weekend, guys. Rob's been crushing it in totals, number 1 in NBA playoffs for totals. So go check him out at Wager Talk. We got more to talk about. Nick says he's crushing that -2.5 Lakers first quarter. I'm going to tail that as well. Let's talk this Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to Miami. Miami's up 2-0. Boston gets shut out at home. Celtics Heat game 3. Where are we looking?
It's crazy to say, Megan, but as talented as Boston is as a handicapper or a guy that's any better in the sports betting industry that's going to put up money, it's hard to have a lot of faith in Boston. The situation dictates they need it. And in most cases in the playoffs, if the better team needs it, they get it. But I don't know that that's the case here. Miami's confidence is through the roof. the head coaching look on Joe Mazzulla's face, the quizzical look on his face, like, what do I do now? I think is not something I want to back. So when I saw Boston -3, and again, most handicappers keep their own set of power ratings, Megan. So from my perspective, I quickly put my numbers together and came up with this game as a pick'em in Miami. And yet Boston is still favored by 3 at the opener, which indicates to everybody out there that the odds makers know Boston money is still coming from the public in this game. Whether or not huge betting groups play it that way, I'm not sure. But I have little faith in the Boston Celtics right now. I have, I'd like to say you have faith in their veteran leadership that was to the finals last year, that wants to get back and win the finals this year. But again, down the stretch, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, they didn't look like the most cohesive bunch in a tight game. They looked more rattled than Miami did. So I think the Heat have a good chance here. And they're the type of team, Megan, when you look at them now, just to use a cliche type of phrase here, they look like the type of team led by Jimmy Butler that is more than capable of putting the foot on the throat of the Boston Celtics and maybe getting themselves up 3-0. So I'd probably start any handicap that way with Miami. And very quickly here, the best ticket cashing kept secret of the season, and it continues here in the playoffs, has been Miami Heat overs, and especially team totals over. Miami continues to get priced in a range where their old perception exists. Miami's a slow tempo offensive team. Miami's a really tough defensive team. And yet with 25 games left in the season, Eric Spoelstra made a little bit of a turn, seeing that he doesn't have the type of defense, very smallish defense, that he used to have. And the offensive efficiency went through the roof. Miami Heat in game 1, their team total was 101.5. They've now gone over that number, 101.5, in 19 of their last 20 games. Game 2, it was jacked up to 103.5. They went over again. Game 3, I don't know. It seems like just waking up in the morning and pushing the button that says Miami team total over has been really successful. So maybe we'll look that way as well.
Well, we can get Heat team total at 105.5. Maybe I'll just go grab that before the odds makers get on to us. Rob Vino, we appreciate your time here at Last Call, giving out free plays. Lakers -2.5 first quarter. We're all going to tail that now. And go check out Vino's 4% plays. He has best bets totals for NBA this weekend. Rob, go cash some tickets this weekend. We'll see you here next time.
Oh, likewise, Megan. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
We continue the NBA talk with Steve Merril, who's been very patient, but we can also bring back MLB. So Steve is here to talk NBA, MLB. Get your questions coming in for Merril. Steve, we appreciate you joining us here. Your patience is very much appreciated. You've been crushing it. As always, you've got some stuff up today at Wager Talk. Tell us about where they can find you and what you're promoting this week.
Yeah, I had a rare miss last night in the NBA and baseball, and I do mean rare because we're still up 99 units in the NBA this year alone in 2023, and still hitting 20-9 in the NBA playoffs, 62% on MLB's sides heading into last night. So look, it's been a great baseball and basketball season. You can still get the rest of the NBA playoffs, both Eastern Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals, for free. That's a $139 value for free. It's quite simple. You get my MLB 2-month special, which gets every baseball best bet every day through the All-Star game in mid-July. I'm including the rest of the NBA playoffs for free. No promo code needed. Check it out on my page right now, along with daily free plays. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Steve Merril, 20-9 overall in the NBA playoffs. And now we are here to pick your brain on game 3 action. Let's start out west. We've got Nuggets Lakers. First one out in LA. LA -5.5. Total 222. Let's start with the side here. Any leans for this one? Can the LA Lakers finally get it done outright, though they have covered the last 2?
Yeah, I know we're a little crunched on time, but I did a deep dive on a Fade the Public style video for this one. So it is here on Wager Talk TV. So after the show today, I invite people to go watch that. It's about 15 minutes in depth on the game. Plan on doing the same later this afternoon for Game 3 Celtics Heat. So that'll be posted tomorrow on Sunday. So some Sunday edition show and info as well. And one thing I mentioned in the video, Megan, is that the early money definitely came in on the Lakers. I'm seeing the public pretty split on this game, but the sharp money, in my opinion, was definitely on Los Angeles. This game briefly opened 3.5 after Thursday night. I think that was a bad line. Obviously, the betting market agreed and corrected it very fast. and it's now 5.5 across the board. And we even see some 6s. And I don't think it's a coincidence, as Rob Veno mentioned, that Scott Foster has been named the crew chief. Had a pretty good feeling that he would be the crew chief. And now we know officially the Lakers will get the calls, as they have in other games he's worked this season. That's probably worth a couple additional points in the spread. And of course, we all know how dominant 0-2 teams have been back at home in game 3. The odds makers and the betting public both realize that as well. And the first half line is something I want to point out. Normally the first half line is about half of the game line. The first half, these teams have been exceptionally strong. And I know Rob mentioned the Lakers in the first quarter. They've been really good first quarter, first half. We briefly saw the full game 3.5 and the first half 3.5 when it opened. Now the full game is 5.5, 6. First half is 4.5. So it's still almost the full amount of the point spread, which shows the Lakers should come out fast. So if you're looking to back Denver, maybe wait for them to get down if they do and maybe play an in-game line or a second half play.
Steve, I was watching your preview of this game. You brought up a good point. We talk a lot in the NBA playoffs about the zigzag theory and backing a team that, lost or didn't cover the time prior. Now, you talked a little bit about the zigzag theory for players. So any player props that would align with this zigzag method?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Davis, as you know, Megan's been like the ultimate zigzag. And we see it a lot. First of all, it makes sense why the zigzag works in general. A team that plays really well doesn't make adjustments. A team that loses a game normally has to make adjustments. And that's why for both sides and totals, the zigzag is usually a good starting point when you're handicapping the playoffs. But same thing with players. If a guy goes out and lights you up, you're going to focus on him as an opposing coach and a defensive game plan the next game. Vice versa. If a guy has an off night, you're not going to worry about him as much. You're going to focus on those other players that did the damage. And then on top of that, the player himself is going to want to have a better game. These are all college all-stars. And I take it to another level when it's a future, a current all-star, future Hall of Famer maybe. LeBron James and Anthony Davis obviously are the two key players for the Lakers. My concern with LeBron stepping up and having a big game here is the fact he did roll his ankle with about a minute to go in game 2. He finished the game. I don't think he was 100%. But he has not made a three-point shot yet in this series. He's 0 for 10 in the 2 games so far in Denver. He's aging. The fatigue factor is becoming evident. So I think Anthony Davis is the guy more to focus on here for a bounce back. And he's been up and down. He's been the epitome of the zigzag the entire playoffs so far. And he had a bad game too, as you know. So I think it makes a lot of sense if the Lakers are going to step up, win this game tonight. Anthony Davis has to have a big game. Different ways to approach. You could play his point total over. I think that makes sense. But even in his off games, he's gotten a lot of rebounds and assists as well. So 37.5 points rebounds or 40.5 point rebounds assists. And he's had 3 assists or more in basically every one of the recent games except for 1 or 2. So I think that points rebounds over or points rebounds assist over 40.5 is probably the best way to play Davis to have a big game.
Yeah, lots of different approaches there. I'm looking at his point line at 24.5, but if you want to go points and assists, you're going to get that at, it looks like 28.5. You can combine all 3. Steve, let's switch over. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going into game 3 out in Miami. Heat crushed it. First 2 games, shut out the Celtics at TD Garden. And now you can imagine that the Boston Celtics are in a real problem. They're going to have to find a way to win this game 3 if they want to stay alive. Miami laying 3. Any thoughts on this one out there in Miami?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised Boston lost, obviously. I liked them a lot last night. But then again, I'd said to some other people, like, if you're going to play the Heat, I know everyone thought that point spread was inflated, and it was. The game 1 line was 8, 8.5. It was 9.5, closed 10 last night. But I also said, if you're going to play the Heat, play them outright because the point spread barely matters in the playoffs. And that's why I was comfortable laying the big number with Boston because as we saw in game 2 against Philly, they won by, 34 points after losing game 1 outright. So, there again, you never want to play these big favorites on a money line. It's such a textbook example of last night. I'm sure everybody thought the Celtics couldn't possibly lose 2 straight. I'm sure a lot of people got burnt with money line parlays, straight up money lines. You play the Celtics minus 9.5 or 10. If it misses like it did, it's just a 1-unit loss. So just a lesson to be learned there. And I do think the Heat are obviously better than their 8th seed. I think we all realize that now. This is a team that was in the Eastern Conference Finals 3 of the last 4 seasons they've played in this exact matchup. They had home court advantage last year against this exact same team. They won game 1 and then lost game 2. Celtics, though, have actually been a better road team here in this playoff so far. They lost games 1 and 5 against the hapless 76ers. And then, of course, they won game 7. But they also won game 6 on the road against Philly. They won that game 4 against Atlanta. lost game 5. So Boston is getting a discounted price now here in game 3. If they really are the best team in the NBA, which I believe they are, they should bounce back. We'll see what happens, though. Miami better than their seeding, better than their overall seasonal record, but I still think Boston's the best team in the NBA. They're one of the only few teams in NBA history that's been top 3 offense and defensive efficiency. The Warriors did it twice. They both won the title. This is a new series that Boston wins, as they probably should in game 3 tomorrow night.
I like where Dave's headed in the YouTube live chat. First of all, Dave is a big Steve fan, says Steve's the smartest guy on Wager Talk. He says, if we want the Celtics, maybe we take them to cover the first quarter. Desperation play, full game. I'll take the Heat.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about game 3 now with the Lakers, how the odds makers have figured out that, the home teams do very well in the first quarter and first half, more so than they do the second half in these 0-2 deficits. We have such a small sample size of, road teams down 0-2 because it rarely happens. And by the way, Megan, it's only 18% chance historically the Celtics are going to bounce back to win this series. I put it up on Twitter last night. I believe it's 5-23 when a team goes 0-2 after the home game. So obviously Boston better than a lot of those teams probably were. But yeah, if Boston's going to start fast here, hard not to see them doing extremely well in the first quarter, first half. Very similar handicap as that Laker game tonight. So I think if you like the Heat, by the way, the full game right now, we're seeing, I believe, what is it tomorrow for the Celtics is 3. I'm seeing the first half at 2.5. So it's even more extreme than the Lakers situation. Now you're basically getting the same price. You're getting the Heat at pick 'em for the second half. So if you like Miami or Denver, you're probably better off waiting and maybe playing an in-game line. But if LA or Boston do not get off to a fast start in the first quarter, first half, history says they're probably in trouble.
Yeah, by the way, we talk about teams that have an edge. You look at the Nuggets right now. This was a stat that I found. 57-6 teams with home court advantage in conference finals when leaving 2-0. That's not surprising there. Steve, switching gears here because we had some MLB questions and we got to go back to them. One question that we have coming in from Mike Love. Adam, do you like the Astros today?
The Astros are a good team. I mean, they're the defending World Series champs. I think it's a team we always look to play on and rarely play against. I can only think of a handful of times in which I've won against the Astros in the past couple seasons. I don't necessarily see a huge edge in this game right now. I'm still digging into the baseball card for my clients. One thing about Houston is, they're one of the best teams in the league. Do they stay focused, though, against a terrible team like Oakland? I recall back a couple years ago when the Orioles had the worst record in baseball. Houston was probably the best team at the time. They maybe were cheating still, but Orioles go down to Houston and they sweep them 3-0. You could have gotten over a 20-1 payoff on like a 3-game money line parlay. So Houston has shown the tendency to lay off. Obviously, if you're going to play this game today, you're not laying the minus 260. You're going to want to play the run line, which is a much better way to approach this game. Minus 1.5, minus 140 would be my recommendation if you're going to play that. You don't want to be laying minus 280, minus even 300 at some books with any baseball team, even against the hapless A's.
You answered my question, Steve. Obviously, we got to shy away from the money line when you're laying that much juice. All
Right.
right, one more MLB question coming in from Pat De Niro. What about the Pirates with Keller today? Pirates taking on the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Pirates are a very interesting team. And I heard you ask Adam Trigger earlier, like any play-on teams. And the first thing that came to mind was, some teams that have underperformed, but also play against teams could be teams that overperformed. And I think we all knew Pittsburgh was phony a couple weeks ago, and they had the second best record in baseball after the Devil Rays. And then they came down to earth. They lost like 9 straight right after that. This Pittsburgh team does look like they're starting to heat up again, though. They've now won 3 of their last 4. And what I like to see is current offensive momentum. And in their last 2 games, they've put up 21 runs on 31 hits, and they've still left 19 guys on base. So Pittsburgh team total over would definitely not be a bad move. Arizona's in excellent current form as well, and it's ironic that's actually the team Trigger mentioned as a play-on team. Both teams hitting the ball extremely well, though, so we'll probably see some runs in this weekend series.
Not only is Steve Merril crushing it in the NBA playoffs, a 20-9 record thus far, he's been killing it in MLB, 62% this season. Go check out Steve Merril at WagerTalk.com because you can get every one of MLB best bets for the next 2 months through the All-Star game. You can also get the rest of Merrill's #1 ranked NBA for free, just $269. It was regularly at $408. This is a great deal. Steve, We appreciate your insight as always on Last Call. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for breaking down the playoffs and some MLB action. Cash some tickets. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Megan. Always great to see you.
A fun weekend in sports ahead of us, guys. Go cash some tickets. We'll catch you here next time on Last Call. Before you go, though, please go ahead and give us a quick like. It helps us out a lot here on Last Call. Go crush it this weekend. We'll catch you here next time. Bye, guys.